January 17, 1940. RAF Fighter Command Airfield, Southern England. The hum of engines cut through the tense morning. On the tarmac, a solitary Spitfire waited, polished metal glinting under the low sun, its pilot strapped in, eyes scanning the sky. A single gunner tightened his grip on the Browning .303, his fingers trembling, not from fear, but anticipation. Across the channel, a swarm of enemy aircraft clawed their way through the clouds, an ominous shadow on the horizon. The first formation came into view, bomb-laden Messerschmitts hungrily advancing. On the ground, controllers shouted coordinates, plotting intercepts with frantic precision. Every man knew what was at stake, every second counted. In the cockpit, the gunner's world narrowed to the steel and canvas of his target. The roar of engines grew deafening, and the distant clatter of anti-aircraft fire vibrated through the earth. One plane broke through the formation, an opportunity, and the gunner's finger tightened on the trigger. Time seemed to slow as the first tracer streaked across the sky. In that instant, silence fell over the airfield. All eyes followed the deadly arc of a single gunner picking off the advancing enemy. January 1940 found Britain at a precarious edge. The first months of the Second World War had already reshaped the military landscape. The nation had mobilized, yet the true test of its defenses remained imminent. Across Europe, German forces had quickly overrun Poland, demonstrating the terrifying efficiency of blitzkrieg. Britain, though untouched by occupation, faced the looming threat of invasion and relentless aerial attacks. The Royal Air Force, still refining its strategies, became the front-line shield against the coming storm. Southern England, dotted with RAF airfields, became a hub of tension and activity. Fighter Command was acutely aware that the skies over the Channel would soon become a battlefield. The airmen stationed there were not merely pilots, they were guardians of the homeland. Daily sorties, training drills, and reconnaissance missions filled the regimented schedule, each action a preparation for the moment when enemy aircraft would breach British airspace. Even the ground crews, though unseen by the enemy, played a critical role. They ensured engines roared to life, guns were loaded, and every plane could take to the skies at a moment's notice. The technological landscape of the RAF also contributed to Britain's defensive posture. The Supermarine Spitfire and Hawker Hurricane, relatively new additions, offered a blend of agility, firepower, and speed unmatched by many contemporaries. Radar stations dotted along the coastlines allowed early detection of approaching formations, providing critical minutes for scramble orders. The integration of human skill with technology was the defining factor that would test the resolve of Britain's pilots. The threat was clear: the Luftwaffe would not merely probe defenses, they would seek to break them. Reconnaissance reports indicated growing concentrations of German bombers along the northern French coast, their objective unmistakable. Fighter squadrons in southern England were assigned interception duties, patrolling narrow corridors above the Channel, ready to engage at the first sign of enemy formation. In practice, these missions were unpredictable and perilous. A single miscalculation could cost lives and compromise broader defense strategies. For the men on the front lines, fear and courage existed simultaneously. The young pilots, some scarcely out of training, faced the stark reality of aerial combat. Each mission demanded not only skill but an unflinching commitment to protect those on the ground. The gunner, stationed in his Spitfire or ground-based aircraft, shared this burden. His responsibility extended beyond the cockpit. Every shot fired carried consequences for the squadron, the airfield, and ultimately the country's security. Ground crews, meanwhile, worked with relentless precision. Ammunition had to be counted, fuel meticulously measured, and engines calibrated to exacting standards. Their contribution, though far from the aerial combat above, was no less critical. A misaligned gun or a delayed takeoff could turn a routine interception into catastrophe. In southern England, the synchronization of pilots and ground staff formed the backbone of Britain's early war defense. By January 1940, the psychological atmosphere of the airfields had evolved into one of quiet intensity. Reports of German aerial maneuvers traveled swiftly across the Channel, feeding into the minds of both leaders and pilots. Exercises mimicking enemy formations became routine, yet each engagement simulation carried a weight of anticipation. The men understood that every sortie, every calibration, every observation could tip the balance between life and death. Within this environment, a single gunner's focus gained new significance. While entire squadrons maneuvered above the channel, the effectiveness of individual marksmen could determine the outcome of engagements. The interplay between skill, precision, and timing became a microcosm of the larger conflict, revealing how individual action could influence broader military outcomes. The tension was constant, the stakes monumental. Every aircraft in the sky represented not just a machine, but the will of Britain's defense against an aggressive adversary. This preparation, this alignment of men, machines, and strategies, set the stage for what would become a defining moment. Every sortie flown, every enemy formation intercepted, carried the echoes of broader strategies and national survival. It was into this atmosphere, charged with expectation and danger, that our gunner stepped, unaware that his actions would soon reverberate far beyond the immediate skirmish. Across the English Channel, the German Luftwaffe meticulously prepared for operations that would test Britain's resolve. The aerial doctrine perfected during the Polish campaign emphasized speed, coordination, and overwhelming force. Bomber formations, protected by fighter escorts, sought to dominate the skies and break defensive lines with sheer numbers. Reconnaissance had revealed the vulnerabilities of Britain's southern airfields, yet the Luftwaffe underestimated the cohesion of fighter command and the determination of its personnel. Intelligence reports indicated that specific bomber squadrons were primed to advance along predictable corridors, relying on prior mapping and aerial photography. Each aircraft carried not only ordnance but the weight of a larger strategy aimed at crippling Britain before a full-scale invasion could occur. The coordination of German pilots was exceptional. Radio communication, formation flying, and pre-assigned tactical maneuvers demonstrated a level of precision that demanded respect. Yet even with such planning, the unpredictability of combat loomed large. Gusts of channel winds, pilot fatigue, and the defensive agility of British aircraft introduced variables the Luftwaffe could not fully control. The role of individual pilots became crucial. Each German airman faced the dual challenge of executing orders while anticipating unpredictable British responses. The Luftwaffe's training emphasized efficiency and decisiveness, fostering an aggressive mindset. Yet as formations approached the coast, the sheer concentration of aircraft introduced vulnerabilities. A single miscalculation could expose entire squadrons to defensive fire, making every second in the sky critical. Meanwhile, the British command structure monitored every movement with urgency. Radar stations along the southern coast provided real-time alerts, allowing fighter command to scramble interceptors before enemy formations reached critical positions. Ground observers and spotters supplemented this network, reporting any deviation or unusual behavior. The integration of technology, communication, and human vigilance became the defining advantage for Britain in the early months of the war. Within this tension-filled environment, the airfield prepared for engagement. Pilots reviewed tactical charts, mechanics completed final inspections, and gunners ran through ammunition checks. Orders were clear: intercept enemy aircraft before they reached inland targets. The combination of training, technology, and discipline created a fragile equilibrium, one that could be disrupted by a single mistake or, conversely, bolstered by exceptional individual skill. The psychological dimension of this preparation was profound. For the gunner who would soon face a formation of enemy bombers, every detail mattered. Awareness of enemy capabilities, confidence in one's own training, and the anticipation of split-second decision-making formed the mental landscape of aerial combat. Unlike massed infantry, where individual contribution could be diluted, air engagements placed extraordinary weight on each participant. A single shot could determine survival or destruction, success or failure. Even as the Luftwaffe closed the channel, British pilots anticipated maneuvers, factoring enemy behavior into split-second calculations. Fighter squadrons were briefed not only on numbers but on tactical patterns observed in previous sorties. Knowledge of likely ingress points, preferred formations, and potential escape routes gave the British an informational advantage. Yet uncertainty persisted. The enemy's ability to adapt, combined with the inherent chaos of aerial combat, meant that readiness alone could not guarantee success. As morning approached, the tension at the airfield reached its peak. Each aircraft ready on the tarmac represented a combination of strategy, skill, and hope. The gunner, positioned in his cockpit, understood the enormity of the moment yet remained focused on the immediate task: intercept the approaching threat and protect those on the ground. The enemy aircraft, numbering far more than any single pilot or gunner could face alone, pressed onward, unaware that their advance would soon meet precise and deadly resistance. This convergence of meticulous preparation, intelligence gathering, and individual skill created the conditions for the defining action. Britain's defensive network, forged from strategy, courage, and technology, was poised to confront the advancing swarm. Within this crucible, the moment of engagement would test not only the tactics of entire squadrons but the skill of one gunner whose focus and accuracy would shape the course of the battle. For the gunner, the battle was as much psychological as physical. Sitting in his cockpit, he experienced a mixture of fear, anticipation, and focus unlike any other battlefield tension. Every aircraft that appeared on the horizon was a potential threat, every maneuver of the enemy a challenge to his skill. Training prepared him for the mechanics of firing, but nothing could fully replicate the pressure of the moment when survival, duty, and the fate of those on the ground converged in a single instant. His mind narrowed to a single target, blocking out the chaos around him. Heart rate and adrenaline dictated rhythm, yet disciplined technique determined outcomes. The human dimension of this engagement, steadfastness under pressure, proved decisive. One moment of hesitation, one misjudged lead, could result in catastrophe for both pilot and squadron. From a tactical standpoint, the gunner's actions were embedded within a carefully orchestrated strategy. Fighter Command had analyzed patterns of German approach, predicted corridors, and assigned intercepting squadrons to optimal positions. The placement of anti-aircraft units on the ground supplemented air defenses, creating lead protection. Within this system, the gunner's role was to execute precision shots that complemented broader maneuvers. His aim did not merely target individual aircraft but aimed to disrupt formations, sow confusion, and force enemy pilots into defensive reactions. Tactical success relied on timing, positioning, and anticipation. Each engagement was not a series of isolated actions, but an interplay between human skill and pre-planned strategy. The gunner became the pivot around which the battle's outcome could swing, embodying the tactical doctrine of fighter command in action. The effectiveness of the gunner was inseparable from his tools. The Spitfire's Browning .303 machine guns, coupled with meticulously maintained targeting mechanisms, offered precision that could be decisive against a tightly packed formation. Radar and early warning systems guided the squadron into engagement zones with minimal exposure. Aircraft design, speed, maneuverability, structural integrity allowed the gunner to adjust rapidly to changing conditions. Yet technology alone could not ensure success. It magnified skill but did not replace it. Ammunition quality, synchronization of guns, and proper sight calibration were all factors maintained by ground crews who labored under intense pressure. The synergy of human skill and technological capability transformed the gunner's potential into tangible results, demonstrating how innovation and training worked together in aerial warfare. Leadership shaped both morale and decision-making at every level. Squadron leaders provided clear directives, mapped intercept routes, and monitored performance in real time. Their presence imbued pilots and gunners with confidence, reinforcing discipline amidst uncertainty. In the cockpit, the gunner relied on this structure, understanding that his success was interconnected with the decisions of his commanding officers. Leaders also exemplified calm under pressure, making split-second tactical calls that balanced risk with potential gain. Effective leadership extended beyond formal orders. It instilled a culture of resilience, where each individual's actions contributed to a collective outcome. The ability of commanding officers to inspire focus, cohesion, and determination proved vital, transforming raw skill into coordinated, lethal precision. The Luftwaffe's approach was calculated, disciplined, and aggressive. Bomber formations relied on coordination, mutual protection, and predetermined attack patterns. From the gunner's perspective, understanding the enemy's methods became critical. The way German aircraft maneuvered, held formations, and reacted to threats dictated every calculated shot. Awareness of enemy capabilities allowed the gunner to exploit weaknesses, target gaps in formations, and anticipate evasive maneuvers. The human factor on the other side, skill, aggression, and tactical training, forced the gunner into a heightened state of vigilance. Each enemy pilot represented not only a machine but a formidable adversary, making engagement as much a contest of wits and reflexes as of firepower. The moral dimension of aerial combat shaped decisions and endurance. The gunner was tasked with lethal precision, yet the responsibility carried weight. Each aircraft shot down was not only a tactical victory but a human cost. This awareness heightened focus and reinforced discipline. Morality in combat intertwined with duty, protecting Britain, defending civilian populations, and fulfilling the strategic objective lent purpose to the act of targeting enemy planes. It was a tension between ethical awareness and military necessity, and the gunner's ability to balance both reflected the deeper human stakes within aerial warfare. Beyond the immediate skirmish, the gunner's role aligned with a larger strategic objective. Fighter Command's mission was not merely to defend an airfield, but to maintain control of southern England's skies, protecting industrial centres, infrastructure, and civilian populations. Every successful interception disrupted the enemy's momentum, forcing German pilots to adjust tactics, expend ammunition, and risk losses. The gunner's precision strikes, though small in isolation, contributed to cumulative effects that could alter the operational tempo of the Luftwaffe. Strategic success depended on the interplay of individual actions with squadron-wide coordination. In this sense, the gunner became a microcosm of Britain's larger defensive effort, an embodiment of the doctrine that individual skill could influence the outcome of the entire campaign. Air combat demanded seamless coordination between multiple elements: pilots, ground crews, radar operators, and squadron leaders. The gunner relied on real-time information from controllers and fellow pilots to make split-second decisions. Formation flying, altitude adjustments, and target prioritization required constant synchronization. Any lapse could lead to collisions, friendly fire, or missed opportunities. Coordination extended beyond technical execution. It encompassed shared situational awareness and trust in one another's judgment. The effectiveness of the gunner was magnified by this network of support, reinforcing the idea that in warfare, individual prowess flourishes only when integrated into a disciplined, communicative system. The immediate impact of a single gunner's accuracy was tangible. Enemy aircraft were eliminated, formations disrupted, and mission objectives compromised. These effects reverberated throughout the engagement. German pilots had to adjust attack patterns, squadrons risked fragmentation, and ground targets were temporarily safeguarded. Beyond tactical gains, the psychological impact was profound. Witnessing one pilot's lethal precision instilled confidence among Allied forces and doubt within the enemy ranks. Morale, often intangible, shifted perceptibly with each well-placed shot. In a broader sense, these outcomes demonstrated that individual skill could influence collective performance, turning a seemingly minor role into a pivotal factor in the larger contest. Adaptation under fire was essential. The gunner continually recalibrated aim, assessed enemy maneuvers, and responded to the dynamic aerial environment. Unexpected behaviors, sudden dives, evasive turns, or concentrated bomber formations demanded rapid adjustment. Experience, training, and instinct converged to produce fluid responses. Adaptation also extended to coordination with squadron members, adjusting formation strategies, and anticipating enemy intentions. Success was rarely static. It was earned through continuous evaluation and immediate execution, highlighting the necessity of flexibility even within structured military protocols. Combat tested endurance and resilience. Hours of vigilance, combined with the physical demands of operating weaponry under G-forces, imposed strain on the gunner. Mental resilience was equally critical: sustained concentration, the ability to compartmentalize fear, and the discipline to maintain accuracy under duress determined effectiveness. Resilience extended beyond the individual, shaping squadron performance. When pilots and gunners maintained composure despite chaos, cohesion persisted, allowing coordinated strategies to unfold. This psychological fortitude, cultivated through training and experience, became a decisive factor in sustaining prolonged engagements and achieving mission objectives. Finally, the battle left an enduring legacy. Each engagement contributed to evolving tactics, improved aircraft design, and refined training methodologies. Lessons learned by gunners, pilots, and commanders influenced subsequent operations, shaping both immediate defense strategies and long-term doctrines. The valor and precision demonstrated by individuals became part of Britain's wartime narrative, inspiring future generations and reinforcing the principle that human skill, coupled with technology and strategy, could determine the course of history. The gunner's effectiveness in this engagement exemplified this legacy, turning a moment of high tension into a defining chapter in the annals of aerial warfare. January 17, 1940, 9:42, the first German bombers crossed the Channel. From the RAF airfield, scrambled Spitfires sliced through the pale sky, engines screaming with urgency. The gunner, seated and focused, tracked the enemy formation, a swarm of Messerschmitt Bf 109 escorts weaving around Ju-88 bombers, advancing with methodical precision. Each second brought them closer to the English coast, each maneuver demanding instant calculation. As the Spitfire ascended into intercept altitude, tracer fire from ground batteries crackled, creating a jagged rhythm in the sky. The gunner's hands moved with trained precision, adjusting aim to compensate for distance, speed, and wind. He targeted the lead bomber, its nose cutting through the morning light, oblivious to the imminent threat. The first rounds tore into the fuselage, sparks erupting as metal twisted. The bomber wavered, then spiraled downward. Nearby enemy aircraft reacted instinctively, scattering the formation. The squadron leader issued rapid commands through the radio: focus on the right wing, cover the tail. The gunner responded, switching targets seamlessly, methodically picking off aircraft that threatened both his squadron and the airfield below. Each kill was deliberate, a combination of calculation, timing, and instinct. Observers on the ground could barely follow the choreography of destruction unfolding above. One man's skill dictated the trajectory of the entire engagement. Around him, chaos reigned. The enemy attempted to regroup, but the gunner's precision shattered coordination. Tracer fire arced through the sky like silver threads, slicing through formation gaps. Ju-88s, heavily laden with bombs, began to falter, their stability compromised by damage and fear. Every plane downed reduced the swarm's momentum, shifting the balance of power. The gunner's concentration remained absolute. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as he rotated through targets, each engagement a dance between life and death. Above, the Luftwaffe's escorts pressed forward, attempting to shield the remaining bombers. They anticipated evasive maneuvers, but the gunner anticipated them in turn. He tracked flight patterns, predicting adjustments, and fired with lethal accuracy. A Bf 109, attempting a high-speed dive to draw him off, caught rounds in its engine. Flames licked the fuselage as it tumbled, leaving a trail of smoke that marked the gunner's success. Even the squadron leader acknowledged the skill on display, noting how a single man's precision had disorganized the enemy's entire aerial plan. The engagement reached a critical juncture. Enemy bombers neared the inland target, yet the gunner, undeterred, focused on the most immediate threat. He adjusted for altitude, lead, and angle, calculating the trajectory in fractions of a second. One bomber, directly over the river crossing, became his priority. The first burst tore through its engine bay, the second shredded its wing. The aircraft lost control and plunged toward the water, sending ripples across the surface below. His actions had directly prevented potential devastation on the ground. Squadron formations adapted to his rhythm. Pilots shifted coverage to exploit the disruption he caused, gaining tactical advantage. Ground anti-aircraft batteries adjusted firing solutions to capitalize on the chaos. What began as a standard intercept had transformed into a coordinated counterattack, orchestrated around one gunner's skill. His marksmanship dictated tempo, targets, and squadron strategy simultaneously. The Luftwaffe attempted to regroup above the coastline, but their cohesion had eroded. Losses were mounting, and pilot fatigue showed. The gunner maintained relentless focus, scanning for any remaining high-value targets. Each engagement required split-second judgment: fire too early, and the shot would miss; too late, and the target could retaliate or escape. Amid the cacophony of engines, tracer fire, and distant explosions, his precision remained unbroken. By 9:57, 15 minutes into the engagement, the initial wave of enemy aircraft had been shattered. Dozens of bombers were downed, others forced into evasive maneuvers that compromised their objectives. The gunner, though physically strained, maintained his vigil. Each decision, each shot, had contributed to a tactical outcome disproportionate to the scale of his single position in the battle. The airfield below, the squadron above, and the civilians inland were shielded by his focus and skill. The battle's momentum had shifted irrevocably. The gunner's action, concentrated yet decisive, had transformed what could have been catastrophic into a defensive success. The enemy, scattered and demoralized, struggled to regain form, leaving fighter command with the upper hand. In the span of minutes, one man's expertise had dictated the course of the engagement, setting the stage for the final resolution of this confrontation. 9:58, the Luftwaffe attempted a last-ditch push. Remaining bombers pressed inland, their formations fraying under relentless Spitfire assaults. The gunner's Spitfire streaked through the sky, weaving with mechanical precision, his focus unbroken. Eyes narrowed, he identified a Heinkel He-111 attempting a low-level approach toward a strategic bridge. Every second mattered. The bomber's payload threatened both infrastructure and civilians. He aligned the crosshairs, calculating lead and distance. The first burst tore through its port engine. The bomber shuddered violently. The second followed, shredding the tail assembly. Flames erupted, illuminating the cold morning, as the aircraft spiraled downward in a trail of black smoke. Below, anti-aircraft gunners adjusted fire, seizing the opportunity to eliminate remaining escorts. The gunner's singular focus had created openings that shifted the battle entirely. Nearby enemy fighters attempted aggressive maneuvers, diving to intercept him. The gunner anticipated each movement. Barrel rolls, sharp turns, and throttle adjustments kept him one step ahead. His Spitfire danced through tracer fire, the roar of engines blending into a singular rhythm of battle. Each maneuver required balance: too aggressive, and he risked collision; too cautious, and enemy aircraft could strike. Precision dictated survival. At 10:05, he engaged the last bomber threatening the airfield. Lead calculations, range assessment, and trajectory adjustments culminated in a perfect line of fire. The bomber's wings sheared under concentrated rounds. Structural failure caused it to fall in a spiral, narrowly missing a nearby village. Ground observers and squadron pilots alike acknowledged the skill that had neutralized the threat before it reached its target. The enemy formation, already fragmented, began retreating toward the channel. The gunner pursued, maintaining disciplined focus. One final Messerschmitt Bf 109 broke away from cover, attempting to draw attention from retreating bombers. The gunner's reaction was instantaneous. A controlled burst from his Browning .303 severed the aircraft's tail, sending it spinning into the channel. Within moments, the immediate engagement was decisively concluded. Throughout the melee, communication remained critical. Squadron leaders coordinated altitude, coverage, and target priorities, ensuring that every pilot leveraged the disruption caused by the gunner's precision. Ground crews, having tracked the engagement through visual spotting and early radar alerts, prepared for potential return sorties. The orchestration of human skill, technology, and leadership created a defensive mechanism that was greater than the sum of its parts. The impact on enemy morale was evident even before withdrawal. Pilots who survived reported confusion, losses, and unexpected precision from a single, dominant defender. German records would later note unusually high attrition for this sortie, attributing the breakdown of formations to concentrated and effective interception by IAF forces. While multiple factors contributed, the decisive influence of individual gunners was repeatedly emphasized in post-battle analysis. By 10:20, the skies had cleared. The gunner, physically and mentally exhausted, maintained vigilance until all enemy aircraft had retreated beyond radar detection. His squadron regrouped, descending in tight formations back toward the airfield. Ground crews prepared for landing, ready to refuel, rearm, and debrief. Observers noted that the engagement, though brief in duration, had lasting effects. The enemy's strategy had been disrupted, key objectives remained intact, and the RAF retained initiative in the region. The singular focus of one man had determined the tactical outcome. Dozens of enemy aircraft neutralized or forced into retreat, vital infrastructure protected, and the squadron's cohesion preserved, all results of precision, anticipation, and unyielding concentration. In the larger narrative of aerial combat, this engagement illustrated the immense impact of trained, focused individuals within coordinated defense systems. The culmination of preparation, strategy, and skill was now complete, leaving only the consequences and reflections to be addressed. By midday on January 17, 1940, the skies over southern England had quieted. The immediate threat posed by the Luftwaffe had been neutralized, thanks in large part to the precision of one gunner and the coordinated effort of his squadron. The airfield buzzed with activity as pilots returned, engines winding down, faces streaked with sweat and grime, yet marked with relief. Ground crews hurried to refuel, rearm, and inspect aircraft for any combat damage. Every Spitfire that landed intact represented both a tactical victory and a testament to meticulous preparation. Casualty reports were compiled with urgency. While Britain had suffered minimal losses, the enemy paid a significant price. Several bombers lay destroyed or damaged, their crews captured or forced to retreat over the Channel. Observers on the ground noted the unusual precision of the gunners' fire, recounting multiple aircraft spiraling out of control after calculated bursts. The psychological impact on both sides was immediate. RAF personnel, already conditioned for tension, drew confidence from this display of lethal skill. The Luftwaffe, meanwhile, faced an unexpected disruption to their operational plans, and surviving pilots would carry the memory of concentrated resistance into subsequent sorties. Squadron debriefings emphasized both individual and collective performance. Commanding officers praised disciplined focus, rapid adaptation, and the seamless integration of human skill with technology. Radar operators and ground controllers were acknowledged for providing accurate, real-time information that guided intercept decisions. Mechanics and ammunition teams received recognition for ensuring that every aircraft and weapon system operated flawlessly. The engagement underscored that victory was never the result of a single factor, but of a tightly coordinated system where each participant's role was critical. Beyond immediate tactical outcomes, the battle revealed the effectiveness of fighter command's early warning systems. Radar stations had provided crucial minutes, allowing Spitfires to ascend and intercept enemy formations before reaching inland targets. Observations from the airfield highlighted the importance of synchronized timing. A delay of even 2 minutes could have allowed bombers to reach strategic positions, potentially causing significant destruction. The gunners' precision acted as the linchpin in this sequence, turning preparedness into decisive action. Morale across the airfield soared. Pilots spoke quietly among themselves, reflecting on the courage and skill required to confront overwhelming odds. 4 young gunners and pilots, witnessing one man's ability to dominate a formation of enemy aircraft, became a lesson in both confidence and humility. The engagement demonstrated that even amidst massed aerial assaults, individual excellence could tilt the balance. Meanwhile, commanders began analyzing how such precision could be replicated across squadrons, refining training protocols to emphasize focus, anticipation, and disciplined marksmanship. The Luftwaffe's retreat left behind both material and psychological markers. Wreckage along the Channel coast provided confirmation of the gunners' success, while intercepted communications indicated confusion and frustration among enemy units. Intelligence officers noted that formations had been scattered, bombing runs disrupted, and future sorties required reconsideration of tactics. The engagement, though brief in chronological terms, carried strategic implications that would extend beyond a single day's combat. Amid the operational assessments, personal reflections emerged. Pilots recounted near misses, calculated maneuvers, and split-second decisions that had saved lives. Ground crews, often overlooked in the cinematic narrative, felt a sense of accomplishment knowing their meticulous maintenance had supported flawless performance in the sky. For the gunner, the aftermath was both relief and renewed responsibility. Each success heightened the stakes for future engagements. The day's events underscored a key lesson: preparedness, coordination, and precision could outweigh numerical superiority. One man's skill, embedded within a well-orchestrated system, had altered the immediate course of battle. The squadron's success illustrated the interconnectedness of human courage, technological advantage, and strategic foresight. This alignment of factors would define subsequent encounters, setting a standard for both defense and offensive planning. As reports were finalized and aircraft secured, Britain's southern airfield stood resolute, ready for the next wave. The engagement had ended, yet its repercussions, on morale, strategy, and enemy calculations, would resonate far beyond the confines of the airfield, creating a bridge to the broader consequences and long-term effects of the confrontation. In the days following January 17, 1940, the tactical victory achieved by the gunner and his squadron began to reveal broader consequences. German operational planners, confronted with unexpected losses and disrupted formations, were forced to reassess their approach to southern England. Intelligence reports highlighted the effectiveness of IAF early warning systems and precision marksmanship, noting that a single pilot or gunner could dictate engagement outcomes in ways previously underestimated. The Luftwaffe's confidence in predictable bombing corridors had been shaken, influencing future mission planning and the allocation of escort fighters to protect vulnerable bombers. Within Britain, the engagement bolstered both civilian and military morale. Word of the airfield's success spread quietly but effectively among personnel and local communities. Civilians, aware of the persistent threat of air raids, drew reassurance from reports of successful interceptions and minimal damage. Pilots and gunners felt reinforced in their commitment, recognizing that their training, discipline, and coordination could yield decisive results against numerically superior forces. The psychological impact of this realization proved as significant as the physical destruction of enemy aircraft. Strategically, the engagement underscored the importance of integrated defense. Radar networks, ground observation posts, and coordinated squadron operations had combined with individual skill to create a resilient system. The lesson was clear: effective defense required both technology and human judgment, executed with precision. Commanders began to emphasize this duality in planning subsequent operations, ensuring that future engagements could capitalize on both collective and individual strengths. The Luftwaffe's retreat also revealed the value of rapid adaptability. German pilots, forced to abandon initial attack plans, had experienced disorganization and confusion. British analysis of post-battle intelligence indicated that disruptions at the tactical level could cascade into broader operational consequences. The gunner's ability to isolate and eliminate high-value targets, coupled with coordinated squadron support, had transformed what could have been a damaging strike into a defensive success with minimal British losses. Loss assessments illustrated the engagement's tangible effects. Several German bombers were destroyed or heavily damaged, while remaining forces were forced to disperse and abandon objectives. RAF personnel sustained only minor injuries, and aircraft losses were limited to superficial damage during maneuvers. The disproportionate outcome reinforced the principle that skillful intervention at critical moments could compensate for numerical inferiority. One gunner's precision had not only disrupted enemy formations but also preserved vital infrastructure, ensuring continuity of defensive operations and safeguarding civilian populations. This confrontation also influenced training and doctrine within fighter command. The demonstrated impact of individual gunners led to renewed emphasis on marksmanship, situational awareness, and rapid decision-making under pressure. Pilots were trained to recognize how coordinated action with a single effective gunner could magnify squadron effectiveness. Mechanisms for communication, target prioritization, and engagement timing were refined, incorporating lessons learned from the battle. These adjustments would resonate in subsequent air engagements, enhancing the resilience and lethality of Britain's aerial defenses. On a human level, the aftermath was marked by quiet reflection. Pilots and gunners processed the intensity of the engagement, acknowledging the weight of responsibility carried in every action. Ground crews understood that their meticulous preparation had been indispensable, transforming readiness into victory. Together, the airfield's personnel embodied a culture of precision, discipline, and commitment that would define Britain's approach to aerial warfare throughout the early years of the conflict. The engagement of January 17, 1940, became a reference point in both operational planning and historical accounts. The combination of preparation, technology, and individual skill had created an outcome that shaped subsequent strategy, influenced morale, and demonstrated the tangible value of human excellence in wartime. While the skies returned to relative calm, the lessons endured. Coordination and precision could neutralize superior numbers, and one determined individual could alter the course of battle. As Britain's air defenses absorbed these lessons, attention shifted to long-term strategic implications. The resilience shown during this encounter would inform the RAF's defensive posture in the months to come, ensuring that future Luftwaffe incursions faced a formidable, adaptive, and vigilant opponent. The stage was set for continued aerial engagements where skill, preparation, and courage would once again define the balance between life and destruction. The engagement of January 17, 1940, endures as a testament to the intersection of human skill, technology, and strategy. In a moment of intense aerial combat, one gunner exemplified the principle that individual focus could shape the outcome of a larger confrontation. His actions, precise and deliberate, demonstrated that in war, the courage and discipline of a single person could ripple across entire formations, influencing the balance between destruction and survival. Beyond the immediate tactical victory, the engagement revealed enduring truths about warfare. Preparation and coordination magnified the effectiveness of individual talent. Ground crews, radar operators, squadron leaders, and pilots all contributed to a network in which one person's excellence could produce disproportionate impact. The episode illustrated how technological advantage, when paired with training and human resolve, could offset numerical inferiority. It was a lesson in both the fragility and resilience of combat operations, where foresight, anticipation, and decisive action became as vital as firepower. The psychological dimension is equally notable. Confidence, focus, and composure under pressure allowed the gunner to maintain lethal precision amid chaos. These qualities not only protected British lives and infrastructure but also reinforced morale across the squadron and airfield. Enemy pilots, confronted with unexpected accuracy and disruption, experienced the same fear and uncertainty that the gunner had trained to control. The engagement thus encapsulated the human stakes of warfare. Skill and judgment can determine the difference between triumph and catastrophe. Historically, this confrontation influenced subsequent RAF doctrine, emphasizing marksmanship, situational awareness, and coordination between individuals and units. It reinforced the strategic value of prepared defenses and the decisive potential of skilled personnel within larger operations. More broadly, it reflected a fundamental truth of conflict. The alignment of human capability, technology, and strategic planning can define outcomes even under overwhelming odds. In the quiet aftermath, as the gunner and his squadron returned to base, the battle's meaning extended beyond victories and losses. It became a story of focus, courage, and precision, a reminder that in war, even amidst chaos, individual excellence can tip the scales, shaping history through skill, determination, and unwavering resolve.